So here we're told to solve. We need to go so far as to get an answer for x. We can't just factor, but we're going to solve it by factoring. But before you can factor here, before you want to factor, is you want to get everything on one side, 0 on the other. So start by moving your constant to the other side. So we're going to add 4 to both sides. So now we have a 0 pair on this side. -4 plus 4 is 0. So on the left-hand side, now we have x squared minus 4x plus 4. And on the right-hand side, we have 0. Now we can factor like we did before. We write down our two sets of parentheses. What times what is x squared? Well, that would be x times x. What multiplies to 4? Well, in this case, we want to use -2 and -2. Would be the factorization. And now we come to solving. Now, the beauty of having this equal to 0 is that anything times 0 equals 0. So if you can get the first factor to be 0, 0 times whatever this happens to be will still be 0. So if you can get the x minus 2 to be 0, you're well on your way. Or the other way around, if you can get the other factor to be equal to 0, then 0 times anything is 0. So really, just set each factor on its own equal to 0. So we'll set that x minus 2 equal to 0, and we'll set this x minus 2 equal to 0. So this is how you solve. Set each factor that you factored out equal to 0, and then you solve each of those equations. So we add 2 to both sides, and so we have x equals 2. And over here on the other one, it's the exact same equation. So we get x equals 2 on this one. It's actually, it's two answers, which is the same number. We call that a double root. So when you go to write your answer, you only have to put it once. You would just say the answer is 2. Now, sometimes you factor it and you get 2 answers, which is fine. So that is how you solve a quadratic by factoring. So it's very, very important that you listen to the directions on these problems. If it just says factor, you're stopping here at this step. If it says solve, you go all the way, get 0 on one side, set each factor equal to 0, and solve the equation, and solve each equation, and you're getting something for x. And so that's the difference between factoring and solve.